when I finally shed all the nonsense, when I finally had the time to sit down and say, do I still want to do this design thing? You're really good at it, Amanda. Yeah, but I don't know if it brings me joy. What about that? And do literally the back and forth conversation, the answers that started to bubble up, that's when I started finding the clarity.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
She Talks Confidence
Podcast.
Welcome back. This is Tony. I am a girl dad turned therapist turned women's empowerment and confidence coach. Welcome back to the She Talks Confidence podcast. And so this week I have Amanda Greaves. Amanda, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm so glad to have you on. You're writing a book or you're done or where are you
I'm
at
in
on
the
book?
midst of doing the editing process
Okay.
right
She's had her interior design company for about, 13 years, 14 years?
now.
And
13 years this week.
we started talking and then I realized that you're going through this big transition,
Mhm.
like from business to like something different in your life and you're dealing with a relationship. This big transition in your life has been going on. So please pick it up from there.
Probably about a year ago is when it really finalized. Simultaneously, I was in a relationship with a man who was manipulative and he was loving and he was taking it away and he was giving it back. And it was a combination, like full narcissism, just really
Like every possible terrible combination of relationship material, basically.
and every possible amazing combination of relationship material, which is why I kept going
Right.
back. When I started to realize it, I finally turned around. I was like, no, this isn't happening to me. I'm stronger than that. I'm better than
Right.
that. Oh,
Yep.
he's with somebody else. So I'm going to win. And it was so
Right. Yeah.
not who I am. But I didn't realize that the exact same time I had been working for a developer for 6 years and he was beating me down on my pricing, beating me down on the services that he wanted to get from me, asking me out to dinner.
Oh,
So I was getting it from both sides, both on the personal and the professional. And in the middle of December, it all came to a big flying halt. Within a 24-hour time frame, I got
whoa,
a
really?
call from my cousin, and she says, I think you've been dating the same guy as my best friend.
Oh.
And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, what do you mean you know? And I said, I did my homework. I'm a bit of a sleuth on Facebook and Instagram, if you will. And not that I'm proud of that, but that's what happens when you're in those kinds of abusive relationships. You start doing
Mhm.
things that are totally unbecoming and uncharacteristic. And
It does drive you to that. It
it
does.
drove me to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we went through the whole conversation. Apparently, his quote unquote girlfriend had just realized all of this was happening. So then I spoke with her. We had an hour-long conversation where we literally took our calendars for a quantity of 3 years and filled in the blanks of weekends and weeks.
Did you have any suspicion during the
Oh
3
yeah, I
years?
found her lingerie. She found my
Right.
flip-flops.
And and so through all that, what were the excuses and how did he go about doing the whole manipulating, keeping you at the fingertips and all that stuff?
He has 2 daughters that he never sees because his divorce still isn't over yet with
Oh.
someone, but his daughters would come by. They've never been to his house. It was the cleaning lady reorganizing stuff because he had moved from one place to the next. I don't know. It's my nieces. They leave their stuff here.
Okay.
And of course, I wanted the relationship so bad. And he had made me want him so much that I was like willing to sacrifice my own self-worth more so than I will ever again in my future. And
Can I ask you at that point, what was so awesome about that relationship that you had to have it using your words and he made you believe in it?
so we're in the same industry. So he's a high-end residential contractor,
Mhm.
and he had the boat, the house, the extra house up in New Hampshire. He was like, yeah, we're going to go away. We're going to do this. And you stripped it down. And I was like, who is this guy? And me being a very empathetic, caring, very loving woman was like, my savior behavior kicked in to the 10,000th degree that it possibly ever could. And this is what
Yep.
my book is all about,
Oh,
understanding what it
perfect.
is. So filled in all the blanks and I was like, oh, I can fix him.
And he totally knew that was your
He
profile
knew it. He
and completely manipulated it, I would assume.
mirrored me
Yeah.
to a
Yep.
T
Yep.
and for years. And it was heart-wrenching. I got physically hurt, not because of him physically doing anything to me, but because of the situations that we were in. I broke my foot.
Okay.
He would disappear and then he'd gaslight me, all of it. And I felt anguish. Now, I've been married and divorced twice, but I felt anguish in a way that I never knew existed because of the super highs and the super lows. And when we were together, it was always awesome. There was
Yeah.
always something
Yeah.
awesome going. It
Yeah.
was always awesome.
Yeah.
And
But that's how he keeps you in it.
it became a dopamine and adrenaline
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah.
And every
Exactly.
time I saw him, I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" And
Right.
every time he left, I was like, "Where are you?"
How much worse is it with us being older and thinking, how did I let myself get into this? And how did
Yeah.
I let myself get bamboozled to this level? I should know better by now.
I know exactly how. I had done a Tony Robbins event, Date with Destiny,
Mm,
back in December 2009. And if you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event, if you've ever been to the Date with Destiny event, it will rewire you
mhm,
completely. And I came back like a freshly sewed, freshly cleaned out field of whatever. And
mhm.
I didn't take the time to cautiously and consciously plant the seeds that I needed to grow what I knew I could. And the wind blew in all this dust and all these weeds. And he was one of those more evasive weeds that he got in.
What a
He
great
got in.
analogy. Makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. What was happening to your business at this time? How were you doing with all that?
Am very thankful for my right arm, who her name is Regan. But I was flippant and I started getting I just I was managing, but barely. And there were times where I just wouldn't show up and I would miss meetings because he was like, "Come on, let's go out in the boat." And I'd have to call and be like, "I'm sorry, I can't make it today." And it's
Mhm.
this term that a coach said to me 10 years ago. She said, "Amanda, how you do anything is how you do everything." And last year or 2 years when this was all going on, I started hearing it. It just gave me goosebumps by saying it, but I started hearing that statement in my head every single day.
Mhm.
And so simultaneously when I was hanging out with him, I was also working for this developer and it was the same thing over and over. I said, "Here's the proposal." He said, "That's too much money." I said, "I've already given you a discount. Can you do more?"
Mhm.
And it was, "Okay, thank you so much. Would you like to go to dinner?" And it's what the day after my phone calls with his girlfriend, I got an email from the developer, and he basically just ripped me a new one, trying to tell me that he wasn't going to pay me for the invoices and he thought I was holding his furniture hostage. And it was the end. I made the very smart decision to not respond until the following day.
Mm.
So I went home and slept on it. And I basically just told him where to go and I wished him a Merry Christmas. And I haven't heard from him since. And then I started
Successful.
writing the book in January, and Regan is now running the company.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back. This was like the epiphany, right? Then your mindset was what at the time? And then what was the first thing you did to step out of that and into the new choices you were making in your life?
So Regan had, at that point in time, a 2-month-old baby. She was coming back to the company in January, back full time. And I stayed the course knowing that I still had to get some work done. But as soon as she came back in February, I said, "You stay, you do what you got to do. This is all yours in some capacity. I need to go and take care of myself. I need to go and get these stories out so other women don't make the same mistakes that I have. So other women don't get stuck in the same trap. And so other women learn how to care for themselves, fall in love with themselves before anything like this even happens. Because if I don't do it now, somebody else is going to get hurt."
Mhm.
And she started to understand that, and over the last 6 or 7 months,
Mhm.
I've really just been extricating myself out of the design firm and balls to the wall, head full steam ahead. I've been writing my book, and it's coming out end of February.
That's awesome. Can
Yeah,
you congratulations, by the way, because I know how my book was out in 2018 and
yeah.
people say, when's your next book coming out? I'm like, are you kidding me?
God, it's like giving birth.
Oh,
And I haven't done that yet, and I
right,
probably
yeah.
never will, but
No, and again, it's and neither have I, but yeah, it's rough. Then there's the second one's easier. I'm like, I may or may not want to discover that is easier. Well, go there. So that takes us to the book, and that takes us to all of those very powerful and very informative and very useful things that any woman can use. Can you talk a little bit about the book and maybe some of the really important things that you've learned along the way that you're going to share?
So the title of the book is The Chameleon Diaries. The book itself is Overcoming Your Limiting Beliefs and being able to understand where they come from, what they've done for you, what they haven't done for you, and how you can actually change your story right now so you can change your life moving forward. It's probably 75% memoir, 25% life lesson. There's a Dear Diary at the end of every chapter that gives you a little reflective, hey, maybe you can think about this, maybe you can think about that. Write down what's your bucket list items. And one of the major ones that comes out of it is through my second marriage. I really wanted to have children at one point in my life, and I got married the second time at 30. And he was awesome, but he was an introduction to the narcissism elements that I then continued to carry forward for the next 17 years. We got together and it was wonderful, and we just never finished the conversation before we actually got married. And so 2 months after we got married, he says, I really don't want kids. I like my life the way it is. Long story short, there's a big part in the book where we have to learn how to use our voice. And that is the one major thing at that point in my life where the ironic thing about it is that people that know me would say, you're kidding, right? I'm loud. I always speak up. I tell people what I'm thinking all of the time. And it is, I didn't have the ability to speak from my heart. I didn't have the ability to tell him what I wanted because I put him first. And I didn't realize how important it was to love myself first and to love myself fully and to love myself wholly and know that what I want is what I want.
And is just important as what he wants.
Exactly. And so it took me over 40 something years to really fully grasp that, to fully understand it, to really own. And writing this book, when people say, what's the one major thing that you would advise people on doing if they're going to do what you did? And I'm going to say, write a book. But not everybody is out to do that.
And it's not about actually writing a book. It's more analogous or more metaphorical. It's about writing it down. It's about revisiting those things. It's about owning them and understanding them and creating a higher level of awareness and understanding of what's going on, of what all the things that are happening in the background, so you don't get swept up in something like that.
It's about doing the work.
Yeah.
And it's about pushing yourself through the very, very uncomfortable contractions because there's expansion that comes right after that. It's about hearing yourself tell yourself and your friends and whoever else wants to listen to you the same story over and over again. And finally having somebody who loves you dearly turn around and say, are you done yet? Have you said it enough?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about him one more time. And when you have that kind of tribe, when you have those kinds of relationships and you have people that can talk to you that way, or conversely, that you can talk to that way and say, hey, are you done yet? I'm sick of hearing about this guy. Or I've heard this story for the same, every holiday season, same thing over and over. Just do something different. And a lot of the book is about acknowledging where you've come from, understanding how much you have done already, and also knowing that learning to love yourself takes time. You need to be gentle on yourself. There's going to be times where you end up taking a big step back when you thought you were moving forward. And that's just what life is all about. We can't expect to unravel 30, 35, 40, 45 years of habits in a weekend course or reading a book or going to Miraval for a week and getting all the spiritualness that you can possibly imagine. It takes time and it takes a repetitive element. So that's a lot of what the book says.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you do that, and if you go to a Tony Robbins event or you go to something like some sort of a retreat, or even if you take some time out and then you hit the tip of the iceberg on that, and sometimes it's pretty
Yeah.
intense if you
Yeah.
allow yourself to feel it. The problem with that is that it comes at you like crazy, and then you're thinking, okay, I've exposed it and I've accepted it, and now everything should be cool. As that sometimes that is just the tip, and there's a lot of stuff coming behind it. And if you think that you have it figured out and then you roll on with your life in a certain way, or you continue with your same patterns, it's just going to make things a lot worse. And
Yep.
then you'll pick up I always call it pick up the second hammer. You'll be pissed at the fact that you haven't figured stuff out.
Yeah.
And then you'll beat yourself up on that, which is even what I love the fact that you pointed out a couple things. The first thing is that a level of awareness and understanding in terms of what's going on and really putting it in front of you. 2 points that I constantly point out to my clients and on the show is how important a tribe is. Like
Mhm.
insanely important to have at least that one person that's going to be honest with you and going to be there always for you and going to understand that you're a dumpster fire like we all are,
Yeah.
but also call you on it when it gets to the point where they've heard it 57,000 times.
Yeah.
And that's so important to have
Yeah.
that person. And it's in it. And I got to tell you, I don't know. It's if you have it, you're blessed. Let's just put it that way.
It's
If
rare.
but it's possible,
It's
right? And
rare, but it is incredibly possible.
it
Yeah.
is. And I think that's so important to find somebody like that. And we can talk about that. Actually, maybe talk about that at the end of the show in terms of what your thoughts are in terms of finding somebody
Yeah.
or creating a
And
tribe.
mine just happened to be living down the end of the street. I found her by mistake because she
See?
got a dog.
Yeah, and see, so that's what I mean. It's fascinating. It doesn't have to be your BFF from kindergarten.
Right.
You never know when that's going to come up. And the second thing that I think is insanely important that I talk about all of the time is have some compassion for yourself when you're going through this. Just just give yourself some space. A lot of
Yeah.
people call it the self-love thing, but then a lot of people get all cringy when you say self-love. So it's about just being compassionate to your journey and the fact that we've gone through a couple marriages, we've gone
Mhm.
through some life stuff, and a lot of my clients are younger women, like 25 to 35 ish.
Yeah.
But it just, you know what, this stuff takes time,
Yeah.
and the most important ally that you have in this journey is yourself.
Mhm.
And if you're not on board with yourself and you keep beating the crap out of yourself, it's going to just make it way, way worse. And then you're going to go into depression, and you're going to start to be overly sensitive. And then you're going to start to attach to other people thinking that you can save them, because I have the savior thing too.
Oh,
And,
so, like, we've run parallel lives
oh,
just
very
in
much so.
different
Yeah.
states. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally get the whole Jesus thing,
The
right?
savior behavior.
And then what happens is you get into that. So then you think you have an identity through saving the person.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then what happens is that typically the person that needs saving, whether they want to or they mean to or not, they start to manipulate you because it helps them through their process. But actually it elongates the process, and it makes the whole thing just an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah. You just sounds like you've already read my book.
I honestly can't wait to read your book. I think it's really important that the message keeps getting out there.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. I think one of the bigger parts of this, which is Brown talks about it all the time, is the unknown level of vulnerability that you just expose yourself in a space where my mother is petrified of this book coming out. She knows nothing about it. But it's that deep level of vulnerability that it's like, I guess everybody's going to know that, yeah, I had an affair and I did coke when I was living overseas. Like all these different things. And it's those parts of my life that I remember calling one of my girlfriends one day and I was like, if something ever happens to me, the key to the trunk in the basement is hidden under this cup. Can
Right?
you just make
Yeah.
sure that you burn all the journals? I need you to get to the house before anybody else and burn all the journals. And she was like,
Uh-huh.
sure.
Uh-huh.
And so then a couple of years later, pulled out all the good stuff and I burned all the journals.
Um,
And so it's all up here and the important ones are in here. But it was one of those situations where I was like, why would I burden anybody else with all that? And learning how to be unapologetically vulnerable in a situation where you're writing a book about all the dirty laundry, or at least a good portion of it that has gotten me from 0 to now
Yeah.
is I hope to God that there's a lot of women out there that are like, oh my God, I just went through the same thing, but nobody ever talks about that.
Right.
And my girlfriends have never been through that, so they won't talk to me about it. And build a rapport, even with strangers, but build a rapport, build a community sense and energy around the ability to talk so we can get over it.
So to finish up the show, I think it's important to come back to that one thing that you said, which of course I harp on all of the time, which is having that support group around you, finding your tribe, like a true tribe, maybe not the one that you have or the one that you're growing out of now as you're expanding. And you had indicated that you do talk about that in your book. Can you expand on that a little bit in terms of how to find that or how to cultivate that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't already realized, the whole Tony Robbins experience has been a very huge, impactful series of events in my life. And through the process for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I have been shedding my skin, if you will, looking for different people that I align with, finding other thought leaders that are more congruent with the pathway that I am currently on. And I feel that in addition to learning how to love myself better, learning how to have more discipline, learning the self development discovery element, I started making more room for the good people to show up. I started creating a space within my own energy that allowed the ones that needed to be here, they had space to be here. And
Mhm.
like I said, there's a woman who lives down the street. I met her because she got a puppy one day. And I was out walking my dog and I'm like, oh my God, you have a puppy. And so
Of
we
course,
started,
the natural reaction to
that
any
was
cute
it.
puppy, right?
I had no idea what her name was for probably 4 months. I knew her dog's name was Teddy. And
Well,
so
at least your priorities are intact, right?
absolutely. I know all the dog names in the
Right,
neighborhood. Don't know any of
exactly.
the owners. So we just started talking one day and we went for a walk one day. And there was just something about the way she was. And she was the one that turned around to me after knowing me for a year saying, Amanda, are you done yet? I really don't want to hear about this guy anymore.
Mhm.
And that's when I knew we had gotten past a lot of the, oh, my name's Amanda. I do interior design. We had gotten past all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
she was real and she was authentic and she didn't care what I did for work. We just went for walks with our dogs.
Mhm.
And the Tony Robbins community, even though they are smattered all over the globe,
Mhm.
with the introduction of Zoom and obviously WhatsApp and all of those types of things, I have found people in like minded groups, like minded individuals that are on similar pathways. We may be in different areas, but we find each other somehow because we go to the events. We join communities like brand builders
Mhm.
and we join different communities that speak to us. And when we join those communities with intention, we find other people that have the same intention, that have the same concepts, that have the same alignment, that have the same goals, that have gone through the same things. And we're all on our own individual journeys, but we come together when we make the space for ourselves. The right people start to fall in line with where we're going. And it's just,
That's such a great way to put it. And you talk about joining with intention. What exactly does that mean?
you join a gym. You wake up on January 1st, I got to lose some weight. As does most people. And or you come back from a 2-week
Or
vacation in Europe and you say, I got to lose some weight. So the intention being really digging in and aligning what it is that you want in your heart, how you're actually going to act on a day-to-day basis to get to that heartfelt center, how you plan on showing up, not just for yourself, because this is your goal, your journey, but you can't do it alone. Knowing that you will intentionally show up to be the best partner, the best viewer, the best advice giver, if that's what it is, the best listener, and intentionally standing there, preparing yourself before you walk in the room, even if it's just as simple as taking a deep breath or saying a prayer or turning yourself around 3 times and clicking your heels, like whatever it may be, but going in knowing Your intention is to be a better person. Your intention is to add value to the lives of others. Your intention is to have a mission that is going to serve others, that is going to prevent them from making the same mistakes, or at least just give them some advice so they can make a better decision than you did. So that's what my intention is.
100%. And that's so well put, because the problem with most people when they go out searching for a new tribe or a new supporter or a group, they go out with the intention of getting support for themselves.
Yeah.
And and it's more almost of a passive acceptance into a group that's going to mold them or is going to supply them with something, versus having an intention of being a tribe member. It's a two-way street.
Mhm.
Like you said, you got to be clear, and you have to have that level of awareness, then that level of knowing that's how you're going, that, because really that's what intention is, having that understanding. That's what you're going to bring to the table. If you want it, then you got to bring it. And if you don't bring it, then it ain't going to happen. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had objectives or goals of my clients where I said, go start or don't start it, go join a group or whatever, find somebody or this and that. And they come back disappointed. Oh,
Mhm.
I didn't like it. Oh, there was a bunch of blah, blah, blah. And go, listen, you don't get it. And that's the thing. That's the missing piece. The piece is that you have to go in with that intention of being or one of the most important puzzle pieces in that puzzle. Because if you
And
don't, it ain't going to happen.
you also use the term having clarity going in to whatever it is that you're going into. For years, I wasn't clear. It's go manifest, ask the universe for this, go do that.
Right.
And it's the secret. Everybody's now referring to it like they say, yeah, go ask the universe for this, but they don't tell you the steps on how to get there. And
Yeah.
for me, I had been so overly consumed with running my design company and whatever relationship I happened to be in and buying a house and doing this I never allowed myself the time to breathe and to really sit down and get clear on what my intentions were. When I finally shed all the nonsense, when I finally had the time to sit down and say, do I still want to do this design thing? You're really good at it, Amanda. Yeah, but I don't know if it brings me joy. What about that? And do literally the back and forth conversation, the answers that started to bubble up, that's when I started finding the clarity. And as soon as I started getting more clear on the fact that I want to serve other people, I want to take my story on the road, A, because I think it's super fun,
Mhm.
B, I love going to those events, but C, I know what I have to offer. And I want others to be inspired by all of the nonsense that I've gone through so they can be better. And getting clear on that, understanding what you want and how you get there.
Yep. That's your mic drop. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amanda. Amanda Greaves, and the book is going to be called, so far, it's going to be called the Chameleon Diaries,
Yeah.
subtext to follow. But we're going to look for that. And when it does come out, I'll definitely post it on my
So
site. Everybody
the
know.
launch date party at this point is actually my birthday, which is February 29th, 2024.
All right. So leap year's next year.
Yes. Leap
Far
year's
out.
next year.
Okay. Have you started like a new email address that's related to the book or a website, or where can somebody get a hold of you if they want to find out about the book or just chat with you?
Absolutely. So the website is going to be real catchy, amandagreaves.com. And there will be an associated Amanda at amandagreaves.com email.
And you can get a hold of me, of course, at tonydufresne.com. And if you can't spell it, because nobody can spell that.
No, I couldn't spell it.
No, so nobody can. It's okay. You can reach me at theconfidencedoc.com. And that's where I actually have the new ebook that I created through BBG. I created the ebook and it's called Transform Your Life True Confidence for Women, which is actually my program all put together in 13 or 14 page ebook. And it's cheaper, literally cheaper than a Venti pumpkin spice latte and a cake pop. So if you want to save yourself 800 empty calories and learn something, right, for $7, then it's a no-brainer, I would think.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And that's on the site too. You can click on that. All the podcast episodes, the 300 or 400 of them, I'm trying to get them all on there from the past 9 years, but so far the last 20 or 30 are on there, so you can go back and listen to all those fun ones. Anything else, you can get a hold of me at tony@theconfidencedoc.com. Again, hope things are good, and I will talk to you next week.